Hello, everyone, and thank you for the introduction. I suggest we give the Chinese 5 minutes more just to get everyone on board. Um, I can easily stall and just kind of pull content out of my behind and talk, or somebody else can. But thanks for the introduction, and I'm ready when we're starting.
And for those of you wondering, we're just waiting for Wenjo, the live audience, to join us again. They went for dinner in the break.
So there's a short question from Arno, and I see that you all, thank you, Arno. I think that you all have these nice backgrounds that you've made, and they're really nice, and they have company names, and there's logos, and it's very serious. And let's be honest about it, it's not necessarily super interesting. So I think the first thing we're going to do while we're waiting is that every one of you go in and change your background to your favorite superhero. So go online, Google a picture of your favorite superhero, download the thing, put it up as your virtual background. We'll get to the other stuff soon enough. And you have 3 minutes. This also means that unless you have a good reason not to, then please turn on cameras. It's much more interesting seeing live human faces than seeing even interesting names like Willie Portier or Kickstart Asia. And for those who are joining us a little bit late or a little bit early, depending on where you are, the first task is to change your background from your company background to your favorite superhero.
Hey, can I ask a question, please?
Always.
Yeah. How can I get this kind of beautiful background like you have or anybody else have?
So are you on a laptop or a computer?
Yeah, laptop.
So Zoom has a thing called preferences. Is it a Mac or a PC?
Do you know where can I find that column or button or something?
So are you sitting on a Macintosh or a PC computer?
Yeah, a PC, Windows computer.
Okay. Does anybody have a Windows computer and is willing to walk through the process?
Yeah, so
Hi.
hey, yeah. So if you see on the bottom left, there's like a microphone and a camera button.
Mm-hmm.
If you click on the little like chevron, the little tick on the video
On the
button,
video.
yeah, it says choose virtual background.
Whoa.
Yeah, and then there's like if you want to pick one, you can click any of there, or there's like a little plus icon which will open up File Explorer, so you can pick your.
Yeah, all right. So I can upload my own picture, what I love, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. I will try to.
No problem.
Okay, a question for our organizational masters. Are we ready to go or should we wait further for more people?
We can go ahead and get started. We are still trying to reach our Chinese friends.
They are on their way. Is the last message I got.
Okay.
That's fine. We can wait a little bit, no problem. We have some flexibility on time. While we're doing that, first question, this is an open one. So if you have an answer, please write in the chat and I will call on you so we don't have everybody speaking at once. Why did I ask you to change your backgrounds and put in superhero backgrounds? I'm not expecting you have the answer, but I'm expecting you have some guesses. To get our attention? That's one answer. It's definitely true. It shows some kind of personality. So the trick thing is, does it show personality to show who your superhero is, or does it show personality to ask people to do the thing with their superheroes, or both? We'll just let that one stand for a moment. Displays aspirations, interesting. How we want to act like superheroes. Yeah. Who we want to be, well, what superpowers we like to have. It shows how we relate our passion with our work. So we don't forget about this, find out who's technically challenged. Yes, gives us more power to feel better and comfortable. Lots of good answers. One of them, there are many more, but one of the answers is that when you are in front of investors, or real investors with real money who maybe want to invest in your real company, they will all have a clear idea of what's the right way to do it. And they're all going to be right for their own money, but they're also all going to be wrong for somebody else's. And one of the first things you're going to find out is that investors, just like workshop facilitators, like nothing more than being in control. Yes, they want to make money. Yes, they want to change the world. Yes, they want you to to help you with making your vision come alive. But in every investor, And everybody who's in a position of power, or they're sitting behind a desk judging you, there's that little, or maybe it's a big, there's that little thing of saying, can I get them to do stuff? Can I get away with making them do it my way? And sometimes investors are going to have that under control, and they're going to have you do your thing, and they're going to listen on your terms, and they're going to be nice and friendly about it. Other times, they're going to be absolute assholes about it, and they're going to have some sort of tests or ideas of how things should be, and they're going to stick to that with an almost religious passion. I'm sure you've heard or read stories of investors who have these, like, I always ask them this one question, or I always do this one thing, or I put them this one test. And you are going to be, when you're pitching to people, you're going to be in an exam situation. You're going to be in a situation where they have all the control and you have very little. So one of the other things I'm testing right now is finding out, if I ask you a simple thing, it's simple, it's fun, it's harmless, just to change your backgrounds into superhero backgrounds. Who's listening? Who's actually expressing themselves? Who's doing the safe choice? Who has the more weirder choices? How many Iron Mans here do we see? Is it because everybody wants to be Iron Man, or is it because Iron Man is a safe choice? Maybe it's both. How many have the weird choices? How many have not changed at all because they're thinking, what the fuck? This guy, this bearded Danish guy, what does he know? Why is he asking us to do this? This is a serious workshop. We're serious startups. And now we have to have Batman backgrounds. What's going on with this? I'm keeping my secure background because at least then I will seem safe. And some of them don't even know what's going on. And they may still fail the investor test, even if they want to, but just because they can't get the tech to work. So with that said, as a short intro, do we have enough Chinese that we're moving, or are we still waiting for a little bit of Eastern magic?
I think we'll just move ahead and they will join in, or at least we'll have this workshop recorded and they can watch it at a later stage.
Perfect, perfect, and thank you. Uncle Scrooge, I like that. So you can all see, hopefully, my screen. Yes? Yes. Hello, I'm Claus Raasted. I just got a nice introduction before, and if you're curious as to what sort of fish I am, I have the advantage that there's only one Claus Raasted in the world, for better and worse. So I'm pretty easy to Google, and if you're actually curious as to find out more about me, you're welcome to Google me afterwards, and you'll find both good stuff and bad stuff, fun stuff and boring stuff, but no more introduction needed. Let's start right out with it, because I'm here to help you with storytelling, because you're going to be pitching in front of judges and in front of potential investors. And hopefully you're going to go out and you're going to not only pitch, but also secure funding for your brilliant projects that are going to change the world. What that means is, if I can do something to help you with that pitch, then I'm going to do so. Now, I just need to make sure, do you actually see the screen that says 3-minute pitch? Yes, excellent, thank you. Good, so what I'm going to run you through is an example of a pitch. This is from a startup that I'm part of, and we pitched this at something called the Creative Business Cup and got the nice title of Most Investable Creative Startup last year. Because of Corona, things didn't exactly happen, but at least the pitch part went pretty well, and we were happy. So it wasn't the same competition you're part of, but it's something a little bit similar. We didn't have 4 minutes, we had 3. And I'm going to run you through that, not so you can see how it's done, because there are many ways to do it, but just to see a way it's done. Then we'll talk a little bit, and then we'll get into the interesting stuff. So for a moment, I want you to lean back and imagine that you have millions of euros in your bank accounts, and you're just waiting to use them on hopeful people with a dream. I think you can all do that. First off, do you like fairy tales? Because we certainly do. But let's start somewhere else. Copenhagen, the capital of Denmark, has more tourists than Bali. Denmark is a tourist nation, the leading one in the Nordic countries, and Copenhagen is the leading tourist destination. That means 8.8 million visitors per year, and that number is expected to rise to 15 million by 2030. That's one interesting fact. Another is that this silhouette belongs to perhaps the most famous Danish gentleman out there. This belongs to Hans Christian Andersen, whose works have been translated into 125 languages. If you count the numbers the right way, he has been read by more people than have read the Bible, due to being huge in China, and is one of Denmark's strongest global brands. However, there are very few Hans Christian Andersen experiences in Copenhagen. When people get off the cruise ship or land in the airport and ask, where do we meet Mr. Andersen? They can't. There's a small thing in the Danish amusement park of Tivoli. It's a 15-minute ride. It's okay. It's kind of 80s. There is a addition to the Ripley's Believe It or Not museum at the center of town. And even the custodians there say that you shouldn't buy it because it's shit. There's also a nice statue at the Danish Central Plaza of Rådhuspladsen, but that's about it. For somebody who's as famous as Andersen, we sure don't do a lot to make sure that people can actually have an Andersen experience in the city of Copenhagen. We're going to change that. We're going to create an interactive experience museum in the city. And we're not talking about a classic museum where people walk up to glass mantras and can see, here's H.C. Andersen's shoe, or here's a manuscript, or here's a bed that he maybe once slept in back in the 1800s. No, we're going to create something where you can step into the stories, where you can touch them, where you can actually open the drawers in the Princess on the Peas drawer in her bedroom. You're going to be able to meet the characters. You're going to be able to stand next to the Snow Queen and hear her complaining about the Little Mermaid and how she gets all the attention. You're going to be able to participate. You're going to be not only walking into a story world that's a physical one, but you're also going to be able to create your own story inside that. Maybe you're going to learn manners from the people who designed the Emperor's No Clothes. Maybe you're going to help out ferreting out secrets and participating in intrigue. But whatever you do, you're not just here to watch, you're here to participate. And who are we? We're industry veterans and experienced pioneers of the experience economy. Casper, our CEO, has built escape rooms and took a escape room company from being a medium-sized player to being the biggest in the Nordic countries. So if there's somebody who has experience with building fictional universes physically and keeping on budget, it's Casper. Peter was the main man behind the interactive Hamlet Live that goes on at Kronborg Castle. He took that castle from 100,000 people a year, 100,000 guests, to 350,000 in a couple of years by introducing an interactive Hamlet show. Now, did he do that by spending a lot of money? No. He actually raised the prices of entrance by 50%, and they still almost quadrupled the attendance. Now Kronborg, which is part of the Danish National Museum, is the only part of the National Museum that is cash positive. Everything else is running on government grants, but Kronborg is actually not only running, it's producing money for the rest. Why? Because of Peter. And me? Well, I have a little bit of experience from a project here and there. I created the world's largest live action role play company. I have lectured at Disney, and I work as a coach for the consulting company McKinsey. But most of all, my passion is creating immersive events and creating events that change people's lives. What do we seek? Well, first off, we of course seek adventure. And second, we seek 2 million kroner for 10% of our company. That's a 20 million valuation. And yes, we're comfortable with that. Now, in 1819, Hans Christian Andersen came to Copenhagen at the age of 14. In 2019, he's going to return because we're going to bring him back. And now's your time to clap. And we want to thank you. Boom. Now, let's talk about how we tell stories. This is an example of a pitch. Give me a few thoughts on it. They can be positive, they can be negative. Throw them in the chat and we'll do them publicly. And the question, Bali in Indonesia, yes, that is true. You just saw a pitch in action. Tell me your thoughts. You didn't tell how he's coming back. That's true. For evaluation like that, I'd want to know your traction. Yeah. Fire away. short to the point, quite rapid. Each slide was very focused. Thank you. All the right elements, good, comfortable tone. And this, of course, was done physically. So that makes it easier, but it could have been done digitally. And who needs him back? I love that that's the takeaway. Thank you. Extremely compelling visuals. Give me some bad stuff. Share some things that you didn't like or you feel were missing, or that if you'd been the investor would have made you go, Competitors? Yeah. Expected ROI? Yeah. No info on the business model, size of the ask, no financial projections. Yeah. Poor taxing policies. I have to ask, what does that mean? Mimi, what does poor taxing policies mean? You can unmute and answer that one.
Yes.
Yes.
For taxing policies, you just ask, throw in some bad stuff out there. So I thought I could just, post it there. But either way, everything is okay. So it's all good.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And there's a really good point here from Get Out Polio. It was great, but looks more like story, less like pitch. The first thing to realize when you are working with trying to get other people's money, and I said some of this in the intro while we were waiting, but I'm going to say it again, is that everybody who's an investor, and I've come across quite a few of them, I have friends who are investors, I've invested myself, they all have this weird tendency to not only think they know how they want to invest their money, which is fair, but also how investors think. One of the most terrible things about trying to raise money was getting all sorts of good feedback from people. And it would always be like this: here's what you're doing wrong, do it like this instead. And nobody would agree. So one investor would say, it needs more detail. We need to know what sorts of merchandise are you selling in the shop at what exact prices. Are you selling wooden dolls at 10 euros a piece, or are you selling plastic dolls at 5 euros? I need that info or I can't make the decision. And if you don't give that, then I'm out. And so will other investors be. That's one investor who said more or less those exact words. Another investor said, you're giving way too much detail. You need to focus more on catching me emotionally. I don't care about whether there were 8 or 9 or 10 million tourists in Copenhagen. I want to have more feeling of what is it like to be in this experience. So less numbers, more story. And every investor feels like I do. There are people who will say, if you don't have a detailed 5-year plan with insane amounts of Excel sheets behind them, then you're not serious. There are other investors who will say anybody who projects more than 18 months is not living in the real world. And you can be damn sure that there's gotten to be more of those after Corona hit us. That people who say, yes, we are comfortable projecting 5 years into the future. Well, that's nice. It feels safe. It's good. It's Excel magic. I can make projections. I can work out numbers. Behind this thing, we have a lot of heavy numbers. But one thing that we ran into again and again was some investors saying you need to have more numbers, you need to have longer projections, you need to have more detail, and others saying the more detail you give us, the more we know that you don't know what you're talking about. Who of them is right? Who of them is wrong? I don't know. And neither do you. And you don't know before you're there. And you don't know what are their secret biases. You don't know what are their strange stories. What are the things that they know from their past? One thing that's certain is that people who've made money, people who are successful in a money way, have a tendency to believe that what they've done works so that they know stuff. If you take somebody who has had a career as a school teacher and is now 60 and doesn't really have any money stacked aside, but could maybe invest 5,000 euros in your project, then they're not going to feel that they know a lot about investing or a lot about money. If you find somebody who has 100 million and could invest everything you need, or maybe nothing, they're not only going to have more money, but they're also going to have a pretty clear idea that they know what they're doing. And they're going to speak with more confidence, not just about how they got their money, but about how everybody does things. So the first thing I want to leave you with, especially the ones where I think this is more story and less pitch. Yes, to some people, this is too much story and not enough numbers, not enough ROI, not enough kind of dun, 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 not enough Excel magic. But to others, it's too much. You need to decide how much story you want to put in there. You need to decide how much of your energy you want to use on stories and how much on spreadsheets. And you're going to be wrong no matter what you do. On the bright side, you may also be right no matter what you do. There are some pretty crazy investors out there, and there are some pretty crazy stories. If any of you have time, I'd recommend watching the documentary called Out for Blood, which is about a medical company in Silicon Valley that got insane amounts of investments with nothing, with no paperwork, with no proof, with nothing. And the Theranos, it's called, and the kind of the founder of it, due to charisma, due to connections, managed to bring in, just through storytelling and through compelling allies, managed to bring in millions, massive amounts of millions with nothing, because it turned out it was fraud. The name, yes, I'll write it here. It's called Out for Blood. Really, really interesting. So to answer Morten's question, we were not pitching investors there, we were pitching in the competition. And we managed to find investors elsewhere, but they said, in January, they said, before we were going to have our final meeting to sign the papers, they said, let's see what this COVID thing means. And we said, no, it's not going to affect us. That's going to be fine. Just sign the papers. And they said, yeah, let's wait a week or two. So we're still on pause with this project. And maybe it'll never happen, maybe it will. And everyone who looked at us and said, you need to have stronger projections for the future, well, they were not exactly counting on this. But with this said, one of the things we're going to do today is you're going to do pitches like this, because you're lucky enough that you have 4 minutes instead of 3, and that's pretty nice. So we're going to put you into some groups, and you're going to actually create pitches, and you're going to pitch them to each other, and then we're going to find somebody who's going to do a public pitch, and we're going to run that through in nitty-gritty detail, give some feedback. But before we do that, I want somebody to be a volunteer. And that volunteer should explain, if any of you know, what is Pathos, Ethos, and Logos. It's a very simple framework. It's from ancient Greek. Anybody familiar with this? Swap language. Nicholas Wallstead, unmute and take it away.
Can you hear me?
We hear you loud and clear.
Amazing. Okay. Well, it's based on on the fact that if you want to, let's say, talk to someone, you should use various different arguments. And for instance, if you use logos, you use logic, you would pitch the traction that you've had and the customer acquisition cost that you had and all these numbers that you were talking on before. If you want to tell the story, you would definitely be using Pathos, because you're going to appeal to that person's feelings. You're going to grip them with storytelling and really move them. And then you could also use Ethos, talking about your team and how expert they are, how many billion-dollar tech founders that you have poached for your company. So I would recommend using all three in a perfect harmony in order to craft a great pitch, right?
Oh, very nice. Thank you for the explanation. and here. Roughly, Pathos, as Nicholas says, appeal to emotions, Ethos appeal to authority, and Logos appeal to reason. Am I still in the meeting? Yes, I just clicked it away, sorry. This means that one easy way of doing this is that you start by engaging with Pathos. You start by giving them something that excites them. If you don't help, the oceans will die. Okay, that's pretty exciting. We're emotionally engaged now. Next, why can we fix this? Why should you listen to us? If you say the oceans will die if you don't listen to us, then they'll say, okay, who are you? Well, we have 3 Princeton professors in marine biology is a lot more convincing than saying there's me and my friend Joe, and we got high one day. And when we were kind of trying to buy more weed, we thought, whoa, man, oceans, huh? It's not really convincing, even though it may be closer to the truth. And last but not least, justify with Logos, because if you get somebody convinced, if you get somebody excited that you're going to do this, and you get them to trust you because they feel, okay, you actually have a track record that's solid, you have the right allies, you have the right team, it sounds impressive. They still need to justify it to somebody. They need to justify it to their company, they need to justify it to their husbands, they need to justify it to their friends. And the better you have numbers, logic, things that you can point to and say, a survey says this, or data says this. It may not necessarily work because data-driven doesn't really work that well when tomorrow is not the same as yesterday. And in the world we live in, tomorrow is definitely not like yesterday. But we believe it, we still feel safe about it. And that means that if you can engage with Pathos, convince with Ethos, and justify with Logos, then you're getting far. It's a very simple structure, but it works very well. There's a lot of marketing material that is done exactly this way. Now, I need a volunteer. And once I have that volunteer, I'll tell what you're volunteering for. And there's a point with that as well. And Nicholas offers to volunteer, but sadly has already volunteered. So excellent. We'll have you as backup, Nicholas. Thank you. Numi. And Robert raised a hand. We'll do Numi here.
I'm here.
You're there. Excellent. So here's the thing. We're going to run you through a very simple exercise, and it is here, which is the 120 seconds, 60 seconds, 30 seconds, and 15 seconds. And that means that you're going to pitch what it is you're doing, and you're first going to get 120 seconds, then we're going to give you 60, then 30, and then 15.
Okay.
And it's not easy, but you're going to do you're going to do just fine. And you're not going to get any prep time either, because I'm a terrible human being. So the 2 minutes start now.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gana, CEO and co-founder of Numi, which is a new me in a childish way. Today, there are 24 million children who have autism spectrum disorder, and this number is increasing 8% annually. In addition, the therapies, but many studies show that getting intense therapy at an early age can be independent. The children and professionals number are not equal. And Numi is here to help and to feel that professionals get providing support to children, their families, and therapists. I'm done.
That's pretty impressive. That's 38 seconds. So that means
okay.
You actually have 80 seconds more for extra content, extra info.
Okay.
So you have the basics pretty well down, but it means you have more time. And now you're going to do 60. But if you have the same thing or something like that, then you have actually 40 seconds more. Not 40 seconds, 20 seconds more, sorry. 60 seconds starting now.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gana, CEO and co-founder of Numi. And today, there are 24 million children with autism spectrum disorder, and this number increasing rapidly, every year adding another 2 million who needs to be taken care of. Many studies show that children can have independent life when they are getting intense therapy at an early stage, but children and professionals number are not equal worldwide. NUMI is here to help and explore. NUMI is providing support to children, their families, and parents. In our long-term vision, we want to be a digital tool for any type of special needs child in the world. Yeah, it's
Very nice. 48 seconds. You're good at keeping it short.
yeah.
Now,
Okay.
consider if there's any info that's unnecessary or any info you're still missing, because you have 30 seconds now. Ready?
Give me a second.
30 seconds and go.
You know, every 20 minutes, someone in the world is diagnosed with autism, and this number increasing every year, 8% annually. But children but children can live independently if they get support, intensive support. Oh my God.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Don't worry about it.
I don't know.
30 seconds is tough. Now do 15. Final one, 15 seconds. Go.
Just
15 seconds, we'll restart. We'll restart. You ready?
give me. Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Go.
NUMI, a digital tool for children with special needs and therapies that helps to turn children's special needs into special abilities by extending a therapy and providing digital health solutions.
Bam, 15 seconds on the money. That was sharp. That was good. Very, 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 very nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Now, tell me your thoughts on doing that. Have you done that sort of thing before? Not the pitch, but the shorter version.
So not immediately, but I kind of prepared elevator pitch or like 2 minutes pitch, 3 minutes pitch, but like 30 seconds or something. It was kind of short. But when you want to tell like more stories, what is it about and how you're going to help, it's kind of running in your brain. Okay, what I'm going to tell. It was hard, but I think I need practice.
Luckily, this is something that's very, very easy to practice. And it's something where once you've done it a couple of times, there's going to be a clear improvement in how you're doing. Now, did you also have a chance to look around at the faces in front of you on the screen, or were you busy talking?
I have on my screen just 6 people and you. Yeah, I was just looking at their faces to have eye contact, but I don't know it was visible or not.
Got it. Got it. So one of the things that's pretty easy to see when you're looking, I have a grid view so I can see everyone here, is that there are some people, and this is another harsh thing from the real world, when you are at a pitch competition, the judges are going to be polite and nice, and they're going to be present, and they're going to be open, and they're there for you. When you are pitching to real investors, they're going to be just like real humans. Some of them are going to be talking to their friends on off screen. Some of them are going to be on their cell phones. Some of them are going to be looking at something else. And especially if you have to do a digital pitch like this, some of them are going to be so obviously doing something else. Meanwhile, maybe it's checking their mail, maybe it's checking out LinkedIn or something else, that it's easy to feel disgruntled. Now, this is never about you who's pitching. If somebody is somewhere else, they probably have a good reason for that, at least a reason that's good to them. And it's so easy to get thrown off your stride by people who are looking somewhere else or people who seem to not be paying attention. But the reality is that this is something you're going to be up against. This is something that, point one, it's hard to see. People work in many different ways. The person who's sitting there and looks like they're dead ass bored might actually think that you're doing something amazing, especially if it's a Finnish audience. The other thing is that somebody might have a reason for doing something else, and they might still be listening. And even if they're not, you can't really afford to let yourself be stopped by that, because what's it going to help? you're going to be getting into a business of getting a lot of no's all over the place. And you're going to end up having a lot of frustration, and you're going to end up having a lot of annoyance at people for not paying attention or not understanding or diving into the wrong thing, because you're going to be in situations that are very much outside your control. One of the reasons that we do the 120, 60, 30, 15 challenge or simple test is that it's good practice. And it actually happens out in the real world that people will say, okay, good, now move on, do it faster. I promised you 15 minutes, but I only have 3. You're going to end up in positions, and again, I'm not talking about the contest, I'm talking about the real world afterwards. You're going to end up in positions where you were promised 30 minutes or 40 minutes or an hour or 20 minutes. And somebody's going to come into the room and they're going to be tired. Their mind is going to be somewhere else. And they're going to say, you can have 2 minutes or you can have 5 minutes. And then you're going to have all of your beautiful material and all of your beautiful, really well-rehearsed stuff. And it's not going to help because you're not going to have the stage that you were promised or that you were hoping for. And one of the best lessons that I learned while doing pitching, and that I've kind of seen others learn the hard way, is that if you have a convincing story that you can tell very, very fast, then it's very easy to also have a convincing pitch if you have time to present your business model, if you have time to go through numbers, if you have time to kind of take it in a stride. If you can do it in 30 seconds, you can usually also do it in 5 minutes, but the opposite is not necessarily true. With that said, we are now going to put you into groups. And in those groups, you are going to be pitching to each other. And you're not going to be pitching 4 minutes, you're going to be pitching 2 minutes. So in a moment, the tech team will put you all in groups of 3, so 3 in each group. And then you will take turns to pitch and to get feedback on your pitch, and then to have the next person pitch and the next person pitch. And then we're going to meet back after you're done with that and get a bit of feedback from the groups and take it from there. If there are any questions or any comments you really need to get out there, now's the time to do so. Because if not, I'm going to send you into the breakout rooms. And as people start to return, then share a few thoughts on this. Tell me how it was. What did you learn? What's one takeaway from doing this very, very simple thing, or one feeling you want to share? Throw them in the chat. That's easiest because then we can get a lot of content out there. And now we're joined by more people. The task is very simple. Welcome back. That's not a task, that's an information. But please share one feeling or one learning that you have after doing this very small breakout exercise. And do it in the chat. Two minutes is hard. Yep. Explain the pain points more clearly. Take a moment to understand the audience and what they want to hear before starting. As engineer, I always forget about the feelings part. I love that, but that's actually super, super useful. How not to pitch. Well, better learning that now. More interaction with the audience, yeah. Find a balance between this is just a pitch but without slides, and this is the story of my startup. Keep them coming. Sum up main ideas in clear way and avoid all of the details. Very, very good. Everyone who has not shared anything yet, please share either a learning or a feeling in the chat. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be complex, but share something. Time was not on my side. Summary would work for me. Yeah. To understand which part is important. Yeah. Time management can be tricky. Yeah. Percent is a thing. I really need to drink a few espressos before pitching when I don't lead hype. Yeah, I love that. Pitching without slides. Now, while more of you comment with learnings and feelings, one of the reasons I want you to pitch without slides is because if there's one thing that I want you to leave this storytelling session with, it's that storytelling is not about your slides. It's not about your numbers. It's not about your business plan. It's about the main core story of what you're doing. And you need to be able to do that, or you don't need to, but it's best if you can do that in an elevator, if you can do that at a party, if you can do that when the projector fails or the sound system isn't working or the investor is busy or you didn't even know it was an investor, but they're then leaving the plane or whatever the situation is. Yes, there will be times when you have full control, all the technology is working, you have all the time that you were promised, things are on your side and you've prepared. When you do it, then it's really good to have like a manuscript and you've prepared and you've tested it and you've trained it and you have memorized it. There are times when you will be giving what is like a TED Talk, and that's great. But the times that are really interesting are the ones where you don't have control. The situation is not set up like you like it. Somebody just says, okay, pitch me now. And that somebody might be a billionaire that you end up sitting next to at a conference, or somebody you're standing with at a hotel lobby, or somebody that you bump into at a cafe. And it might not even have to be a billionaire. It could just be somebody who has just a little of the money you need, or the contacts you need, or the ideas that you need. And if you can't pitch your idea without having complete control, then it's much harder, because then you're losing a lot of situations that might be good. And one of the things that are bizarre is that investments come from all sorts of crazy places. They can come from the person you meet on vacation. They can come from somebody you stand next to in a train. They can come from somebody who you're at a wedding and one of your friends introduces you to somebody, and then the talk leads to them introducing you to a friend, and you have 1 minute to explain what it is, and they say, that's great, I'd like to use $50,000 on that. So the more you have your core story that you can tell that at any time, 1 minute, 30 seconds, or 2 minutes, with no slides, with no preparation, with no numbers, with no nothing, the stronger you are. And I'm not saying you should pitch with no numbers. I'm not saying you shouldn't prepare. I'm not saying you shouldn't do all the things that the internet advises you to. Of course you should, but you should also be able to do the other thing, because then you're never going to have to be afraid. You're never going to have to say, oh no, the computer didn't work, or the projector burned down, or I forgot my notes, or the investor is blind, or whatever it is. You don't have to panic, because you'll know that no matter where you are, you can do the 30-second or the 1 minute talk with no help, with no preparation. And that's when you stand the strongest. Now, is there somebody here who is up for doing a 2-minute pitch for all of us? A volunteer? That's interesting. Nicholas, thank you for again being a volunteer. Sadly, I'm not going to accept your volunteering, but I'm instead going to do something else. I'm going to ask all of you who didn't say yes immediately, why not? What are you afraid of? Why did you not say yes immediately? There's a chance to pitch in front of a qualified feedback person, somebody who's an actual expert at this stuff, and a group of your peers who so far have seemed to be nice and fun and friendly and have good feedback, and they're showing all over the place. But when given the chance, there was just silence. There should have been 20 yeses right away. Why were there 0? What are you afraid of? Yeah, Bridge IoT, very good point. I still don't feel prepared enough. Unstable internet. I'm not on the best form today. Yeah, fair. Keep sharing. Why did you not jump at this chance when you had it? It's totally okay to have these reasons. You're human beings. It's not like I'm going to hunt you down and kind of tease you for the rest of your life because you said no to a short challenge. But it's interesting to know these things, and it's interesting to know that you're not alone. And it's interesting to see what can be done to get over this, because sometimes you're going to have that chance for a very short while. And if you don't jump at it like this, it's going to be gone. So it's really interesting to know and useful to know, why is it you don't jump on it? We have a couple of people who've shared. Very cool. Thank you for that. More people who share. Why didn't you jump on the chance? I didn't prepare too much. Yeah, fair. Public speaking is the most feared task in the world. Exactly. Now, Morton writes, public speaking is the most feared task in the world. Everybody who agrees that public speaking is scary, please kind of nod or wave your arms or make some sort of movement. Quite a few people. Anybody here who isn't scared of public speaking, who's like, just give me it, let me talk. I don't know what I'm saying, but just let me talk. Wave your arms if you are that sort of person. Yes, unsurprisingly, Nicholas is on that list, and that's why he's volunteered a couple of times. Thank you. Anyone else? So the simplest trick, if you want an advantage, is to work with that fear. If you're in a room full of 30 people and they're asking one person to take the floor, one person to try to impress, whatever it is, the simplest trick in the book is to raise your hand. Now, it might go terribly. It might be a complete and utter disaster. They might laugh at you. You might laugh at you. Other people might say, oh, that was terrible. But if you don't raise your hand, and if you don't say, okay, yes, I'm in, tap me in. If you don't take that shot, then they're never going to know if you were good or not. It's very easy to not do things. It's very easy to not write books, not publish music, not make poems, not ask people to help you, not do all sorts of things. And there are many good reasons for doing so. But because it's very easy and there are so many good reasons for not doing so, it means that if you want an advantage in this sort of thing, learn to raise your hand, even when you're shit scared, even when you don't know what you're doing, even when you're not prepared or on your best behavior. Because if you do that, you get an automatic ticket to the front of the line. And that doesn't mean that it's going to go well, but you're suddenly going to have a chance. There's a saying in football that it's very hard to score a goal if you don't actually kick the ball. And it's a little bit more elegant in Danish, but not much. And the point, of course, is that don't worry too much about being prepared. Because if you go there, if you do it when you're unprepared and it goes terribly, then you're going to be better next time. And if it goes well, then you don't have anything to be afraid of. Fair enough. Neighbor doing repair work in the house, too much noise. Fair. And it's okay to be nervous. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to worry. It's okay to feel you're not going to be your best. But remember, I haven't seen very many of you pitch or talk. I've seen you write, which is great, and thank you for doing that. There's some people who don't even want to do that, so thank you for doing that. But I don't know how good you are. You might be the best ever. You might be the worst ever. I have no chance of knowing. The only thing I can judge, and that goes for the rest of the people you'll meet along the way, is the stuff they actually see. You might be a 5 times TEDx speaker. You might deliver the best 2-minute pitches ever. But if you're feeling in bad shape or you're feeling tired and you don't want to do it, then they'll never know. So take the chance, even when you're not at your best.
If I may chime in,
Yes.
I just want you all to know that as entrepreneurs, you are courageous just by being entrepreneurs, and you shouldn't be ashamed that you're afraid of public speaking. As I wrote, several surveys continue to show that public speaking is the #1 feared task in the world. It's more feared than death. So it is I think, a natural instinct to be kind of afraid of standing in front of a crowd and talking and having that attention on you. So it's an acquired taste.
It's scary as hell, but it also, because it's an acquired taste, it means that if you master that, or you don't even have to master it, you just have to do it, then you're going to be in the top 5%. Just because you're willing to take the chance. Okay, synthesia, we'll give it a shot. Or synthesis, not sure how to pronounce that. We'll give it a shot.
Yeah, sure.
Fire away.
All right. Okay. It takes 816 fish to produce just one salmon. Why is this the case? Well, 52% of fish you eat come from fish farms. These are just like any other farm, except it's fish. And fish need omega-3 to grow and be nutritious. So the question is, where do they get this omega-3 from? Well, they get it from something called fish oil. Now, fish oil is produced by taking wild fish from the ocean, squeezing it, and then using that to produce fish oil, and then feeding that to the farmed fish. So in short, wild caught fish oil is fed to farmed fish as a source of omega-3. This is exactly why it takes 816 fish to produce just one salmon over its lifetime. This devastates ocean ecosystems because it destroys entire fish populations. This has three main problems. First of all, it's completely unsustainable. Second of all, it's incredibly expensive. Fish oil prices are now at $2,000 per ton. And third of all, it bars entry it stops growth of the aquaculture industry because it's now a limiting factor on growing aquafarms because there's simply not enough fish in the sea. So what we're doing at Synthesis is we are taking plant oils where we've built a novel production process along with novel bacteria that take this plant oil, convert it to omega-3 using our bacteria, and that ends up being more sustainable, up to 80% cheaper than fish oil, and unlocks growth for the aquaculture industry. We are all scientists at heart, and we have some great mentors. Rodrigo has 10 years experience in lipid metabolism and engineering of bacteria, and we have other business people that are focused in the fish industry as well. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Very nice.
Thank you.
Was it tough?
Yeah, I don't know why. I'm not usually super nervous, but for this particular day, I was not feeling like on form. So there was a little bit of umming and ahhing there. But yeah.
That's okay. You did it anyway.
I think the thing is I usually have like a pitch script in front of me. So because I'm not too bad with public speaking. It's just when I'm pitching without a script, I feel super unprepared.
Do you think it will be easier to do the same next time?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just a matter of practice.
And one of the nice things about this is practice is easy, because one of the huge advantages of the whole Corona situation is that digital is now the default. So before, when you needed to practice with stuff, you're like, oh, when do you have time? Oh, on Tuesdays, do we have a room we can meet in? Oh, that guy can't be there, blah, 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 blah. But now you can have partners in Bangkok, even if you're working in Dubai yourself, and you can have a partner team or several partner teams that are thousands of kilometers away, as long as you coordinate time zones. So you guys have never had an easier time of practicing because digital is now the standard. So I'm not going to say you have to, but one thing I would do if I was you is that I'd find one or two teams after this and partner with them, somebody who does something very different from you. You know, you don't even have to like them. You don't even have to click with them, just somebody who's different from you, and then spend half an hour or maybe an hour together before you do the pitch. Just testing, just getting things out, or just talking. because it's so easy to connect across time or across distance now. And you have the huge advantage of that. And I know you have a press schedule. I know that I'm just suggesting more stuff when you have no time, but I'm doing it anyway. So you can ignore it, but it's a tip. Find somebody to talk with and to try these things out, because it's amazing how much you learn by doing it. It's amazing how much you learn by getting qualified feedback from others, whether they're experts or in your shoes or just random people, because they'll all have good points to make. And the best thing about advice, you can always ignore it. That includes the stuff that I say as well. With that, we have a 5-minute break, because then we're going to seamlessly slip into the strategy session, which is the other workshop we're doing. So 5-minute break. And while we do that, I'm just going to ask you all to show us where you actually are. This is what my office looks like at the moment. And if you're comfortable with sharing your space, then please do. If not, then you're welcome to put back your virtual background of your company. See you here at 15:16.